I had paused the recording and I just barely started it up again. So, oh well. So I'll continue on here. So hem and haw. Okay, so the cheese moves. Hem and haw are mad about it. Hem just wants to stay in denial. Sniff and Scurry have run off to go find more cheese. Haw is starting to, like, his wheels are starting to spin, and he's thinking, okay, I think we could probably find some more cheese somewhere else. I'm imagining this cheese. It's kind of exciting to think about cheese being somewhere else. I'm getting really hungry, you know, and so he starts thinking about changing and adapting. And so then he starts out on his journey to go find the cheese. And then through his journey and trying to find new cheese, he learns a lot of new lessons through it. So there's these 4 different characters. And so the idea is to kind of look through and say, okay, how am I adapting to change? Do I kind of am I evaluating to see change happening so that I'm ready to adapt to it when it comes? You know, am I in denial and just kind of think that everything's going to be easy, you know, and be the same forever? And so they really are trying to, you know, then Haw is kind of figuring out along the way that, hey, it's not so scary to go look for cheese. We can, you know, it's actually kind of fun and exciting. And it's this whole journey for him in being able to discover.
Yeah, it's definitely sounds interesting. It's just, we'll go over it. Definitely find some time to go over it.
Yeah. Ariana, hi. Can you hear us? I'm going to actually, here, let me pull in here. Ariana, I can't hear you. Let's see. I think you're unmuted, but. So we're just kind of talking, Nawa and I were talking a little bit about the book. But Ariana, have you? Hi. I wonder if we can hear you. Are you able to hear me all right? You can. Okay, so I can't hear you for some reason. And I don't have you on mute. You might need to adjust the microphone. So just a nod of the head. Were you able to read the book, Who Moved My Cheese? No? Okay. Come on, you guys. No.
So definitely a very good day to have a book club meeting.
A book club meeting. Okay. Well, here are my thoughts about it. But I'll just, I know that, you know, change is inevitable. Here's kind of my summary of it. Change is inevitable in life, in all that we're doing. And it's funny that sometimes we are surprised when things change, kind of like we think that things will just kind of be the same forever. It's kind of our human nature to think that, you know, once we arrive, you know, we've arrived at happiness or we found happiness, that it's just going to be that way. And I'm only going to be happy when I achieve whatever it is that we're working to achieve. And through this book, Haw, the character Haw, he realizes that the journey and the process and the learning and the growing is what really created that happiness for him. It wasn't actually finding the cheese that made him happy. It was the process. Were you in the discussion, Nawa, for The Alchemist, the book The Alchemist?
Yes.
Yes. So it actually reminded me a lot about The Alchemist, because that whole part of his journey, he realizes the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's definitely that's, you know, whatever the extrinsic motivator we're looking, look forward or looking to every day, the kind of not giving the real life or the long-term happiness. They are there for a moment. Okay, if I do this, if I finish this task today, I will be happy. That is for just today. That tomorrow I will have same thing to do it again. So that's just the definitely the journey or the process. You get to that point should be more rewarding. Yeah, that's how I think. But in a life, that's not the case. Sometimes you are not rewarded for how you get there, but what you get. That's kind of okay. It definitely sounds very interesting book to me.
Yeah, and it, some of the takeaways that I had, because I think I am in the mentality of I don't like to stay the same. I like to be moving and changing. I think it was interesting in the book the way that the two characters responded to each other, because a lot of times maybe we want to change, but other people around us don't want to change. And how do you inspire others, or what do you do when you want to move forward, but maybe your team at work doesn't want to move forward, or your kids or your spouse don't want to kind of move forward, or they're resisting that change? How have you kind of found in your life that dynamic of knowing that change needs to happen, but having others around you resisting that change?
It's very difficult. It's obviously very difficult. It's every time I think, you probably know I'm in engineering field. We do kind of things, follow some tools and techniques, right? We use some guidelines and standards. I am kind of more rational thinking. I want someone to use their common sense more than just saying, yeah, we got this result, we ran this model and got the result. Okay, that's not the result. You got is whatever the input you give it to the model. If you give wrong input, your result will be wrong. It doesn't matter, what you use. I'm surprised so many times, just not only the juniors or the new graduate telling that, the more often, the many more senior engineers in the group, or those who have more experience than my life, telling, and they say, hey, we are doing this for 40 years and we will do it the same way. Or, we have just convincing that it's kind of easy to bring that change when you have a more fresh brain with you, but it's very difficult to make that change when you are in the team somewhere in the middle, and bringing, or convincing those who have in the field for long enough to make their thumb rule principle and all that work. That's a very good thing. They have that experience, but going from or changing to the new methodology, or using new techniques, or rational, or simply using things in a manner that more rational and have some common sense, it's very, very tough.
Yes, they want to get different results with the same effort or the same process, instead of saying, okay, what's a new way of looking at this, a new, fresher, what additional learning do I have to do in order to do that, to get the results that we need?
Yeah, I don't blame them for saying that, because they are comfortable with that. and they're comfortable doing that way for so long, and they know exactly what needs to be done to get through this process.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that process might be, number one, outdated, or number two, it might be less effective and less efficient for the overall team. So that was something, I kind of have to run through every day to convince the senior staff in the team, say change the principle, or change the methodology, or change some kind of assumption we are making in any kind of project. Maybe some of the assumption we are making, they were valid 20 years ago. Now we have more information available in that subject. So that assumption is no longer, it's not wrong, it's probably we have better assumption to make.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, and so this book is exactly that. It is exactly that, realizing that you just can't keep doing the same thing over and over again for, 20 years, and that idea you just mentioned, being comfortable. They do it because it's comfortable. It's what they know. It's what they've been doing. And so this book really is a way of drawing out that mentality and saying, no, change is happening. It changes. You can either resist it, but you're going to be left behind. If you resist it, you will be left behind. But if you can kind of just adapt and change with it, you're going to find even better results.
Yeah, exactly. That's what, I have one project right now. I'm leading that project, and my principal, it's kind of, he was willing to spend about $50,000 more to do it the way he wants. It's on his ways. We come up with a better solution. We come up with better tools and techniques. Can do the same thing, but we don't have to spend that much money. So sometimes it's how you convince or delay that or relay that information, or delay making in decisions, has to, we kind of have to think in a different ways. Sometime, for this example, this project, he's the owner, right? He cares about money.
Right.
I challenge him in that aspect. So I was able to convince him maybe in a more logical manner. But other time, if it's just the technical stuff, I have to come up with a technical rationale to make that change. One rationale or the one logic doesn't work to everyone in the team. So finding multiple rationale to convince multiple team member.
Right.
It's sometimes it's troubling, and sometimes it's difficult.
Well, if everybody on the team will read this book, they might be able to see it in a different light. I don't know. Just kidding. Hey, Ariana, I see that you tried to get the earphones. Let's see if it works now. Are you able to? Let's see if we can hear you. Go ahead and say something. Oh, darn it. We can't hear you. So it's not muted on my side. I think there's just something with the microphone that's not working on your end. It seems to, we would love to hear your voice and your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wonder if maybe you can play around a little bit more and see if we can get that working from your end. So, and you were talking, Nawa, earlier about kind of health problems with your family and things like that. And it's interesting because, just part of life, we're going to age, we're going to have health problems. It's, you know, it's a natural part of it. And I see this with, you know, my parents and my older siblings and things like that. There was something that happened this morning where my oldest brother was saying, you know, said something but was wrong about it. And we were texting, you know, and he's like, oh, I just had a senior moment, you know, just saying that my brain is not quite working like it, you know, used to. And so I think that, you know, it's inevitable that even that kind of stuff's going to happen. And if we are kind of in denial that that's going to happen, or it will sneak up on us, and then it can be harder to adjust to it if we're not expecting it.
Exactly. That's something, either we plan for the changes, and when that happens, sail it smoothly, or we just deny for it and wait for something to happen, then be in the shock.
Yep.
That's again, you know, saying that how many things we can plan, there is a limitation, of course,
right?
But for the major items, major things, you kind of know, that's going to happen. Okay? We have, let's say we have younger kids, they will be in the school in next 2-3 years, or they will be in a college maybe in 15 years or 20 years. So something like that, these are the things we can plan for.
Right.
And okay, how you handle kind of a situation when you get sick for a month. This thing you can plan for. But something like, okay, you got accident today. Okay, what you can do? Right? There is nothing for you to plan, and there is okay, you get it through. Just stay strong and get it through the time. That's the only thing we can do. But definitely those things that you can think of or you can handle, planning them just gives you a smooth sail, rather than going through the shock and going through the shock is definitely making a wrong decision.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because the process of, so I heard recently, mental health, good mental health is being at peace with what is. Okay. Yeah. Is being at peace with what is, because as things come up in our lives, something unexpected comes up and, an accident happens. Say you're in a car accident, wasn't your fault. You're now having to deal with injuries and expenses, things like that. It's the way we react to those things that are going to cause us to move forward or move backwards, really. If we are mad about it, and there's a process of grieving that happens, and I think that it's okay to feel those things and to let yourself feel those things. But the faster we can kind of move on through say what's happened has happened. I don't have any control. This is what I have control over. Here's what I don't have control over. Being at peace with that and saying, okay, what I do have control over is where I go from here, and accepting what is, and being able to then move forward saying, okay, this is what I can control. I can do rehab and therapy to get physically back to where I want to be. I can set up a plan financially to be able to recoup from this incident. Here is what I have control over. But stewing and worrying and being angry and being sad and being resentful of what those
But
things that we don't have control over really just causes us more harm.
yeah, that is, that is one of the biggest complaint and maybe everyday complaint from my wife. It's, it's I can't, every day it's probably maybe every day, not every day, or maybe so whatever time.
Uh-huh.
We go home right after work, and she kind of try to tell me what mistakes she made every day.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I then my question is simple. Okay, what lesson did you learn?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And my answer, and I don't care what you are going to say. Okay, I only care what you learn
Mm-hmm.
and how you're not going to repeat it again.
There you go. That's awesome.
Okay, then she's kind of, then when I said, okay, that's already happened, you know, I kind of say, okay, that's already happened. What you going to do with it?
Mm-hmm.
She kind of always says with the angry face and all that. You always said that. It's it's boring to talk to you. I need to ventilate this. Oh, okay, I get that. Okay,
Yes.
your ventilation is okay. I get that. I hear it.
Mm-hmm.
I hear you. But the point is not just ventilating.
Mm-hmm.
It's the point is learning from those mistakes.
Right.
How you going to not repeat. If that's something in your control.
Mm-hmm.
If your manager comes and yell at you, yeah, what you can do?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. He can do it at any time, or maybe he is mad at someone. Maybe he find you at the point. Okay, that may happen again, but you cannot do anything. But if you
Mm-hmm.
really make a mistake on your part, if you messed up your work, okay, we go ahead tomorrow, go to the work, fix it. That's all we can do. But uh, if someone do something, somebody said something, maybe you're in the elevator and someone said something you didn't like it, what you can do? There's nothing I can do or you can do. It's on him. Okay, whatever he had
Yes.
or she had, okay, they let it go.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to take it.
Mm-hmm.
They can let it go, but you don't need to take it. You can just,
Yes.
once you are out of the elevator, that thing is gone.
Mm-hmm.
So
Those are some good words of wisdom there, Noah. I like it. Ariana, do you agree? We're gonna take that and run with it.
yeah,
No,
but
I think it's the classic example of male and female, and the way we kind of handle things is kind of the way we talk about it is being a pillow versus a tool. Like sometimes your wife just needs a pillow. She just needs someone to vent to and complain about some stuff. And, she doesn't want you to fix it. She doesn't want you to be a tool
yeah, no,
to fix the problem. Yeah, she just wants to just complain a little bit. As long as the complaining isn't just, like there's eventually a resolve that she comes to, and that she's coming to resolve her own problems. But
yeah, I think the point is I'm okay with the complaining or anything as long as that conversation is more normal. It's a normal conversation.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can complain. It's not the male or female. It's we do complain things.
Right.
But the point is, even if I'm complaining, I have a complaint. I will let you know later on. On the pronunciation pro, but if whatever the complaint, what I like to do is I like to have that as a normal conversation
Mm-hmm.
rather than making it as a real complaint, or maybe just giving some sense to your body, or that has, the body has to release some kind of hormone to balance it, or do something of that nature. That's my that's what I kind of like to see every day. And even if I get angry, or just this morning, I think this morning, I was taking care of my little one. He is 2.5 now, and I was alone at home with him. And then I try to give him his breakfast. And since I'm going to drop him to the daycare, I kind of like to give him a little bit heavier breakfast.
Okay.
I know for sure he's not going to eat anything until I pick him up.
Oh, okay.
So, I want to make sure he has something for maybe majority of the day. It's not going to take him all the way to 6 p.m., but I want to make sure it has something. And he refuses to eat anything.
Oh, no.
Anything. And late to the work, it was already 8:30 at home, and I'm still trying. I'm kind of trying to convince him, or even trying to even feed him and all that. Finally, it's enough. Enough is enough. At some point, you get angry and all that. Enough is enough. But I was so mad. The only thing I can do is, that madness or that anger, what I know is it's not going to harm him. It's going to harm me. Only thing I did is just take him out, take him to the closet, lock the door, leave him there for 15 minutes. I came back, I came outside, open up the TV, watch the basketball highlights I wasn't able to watch last night. So I enjoyed my time. I let him play. I let him stay there. But I'm not going to, the whole point is, because of any changes, or because of anything of that nature, or anything that's something not in my control, I'm not going to let my body react to that. So it's
I think that emotional regulation is something that as we get older, I think that's the sign of maturity, is when someone is so emotionally regulated that anybody can do anything around them and they don't have to react. And I think that having kids is absolutely the training process, because boy, do they test you.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
they test your patience. They test your that emotional stability.
They do everything they can, and everything you have.
Yes, it's the most humbling experience to be dominated by a 2-year-old. Right now, my 1.5-year-old and my 4-year-old. They know how to get to me.
Until my mother-in-law was here, we were kind of completely out of it. She took care of him, everything. And definitely he is kind of spoiled a little bit more than he needs to be. But now I'm kind of fighting back to bring him, in the track. So far he's winning.
Well, what I found with my 4-year-old is the harder I pushed, he's like me. The harder I pushed, the harder he pushed back. And so I realized that if I was kind and reasonable and like talked through it with him and everything like that, eventually he'd come around. But it does take a lot more effort than just do this. Do this when I say, which is what I want to do. But it does take a lot more effort to do it the other way. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I think that and it's interesting because you mentioned kind of some, you know, feedback or criticism or whatever that we get, if we can kind of view that as an opportunity to learn. Because as you say, you know, with Pronunciation Pro, I know Pronunciation Pro is not perfect. I'm figuring it out as I go along, and I've learned a lot of things that work and a lot of things that don't work, you know, along the way. But the more that I get feedback from my clients, you know, and from all of our students, the more I feel like we can make it better together, you know.
Exactly.
And so I always welcome those criticisms or that feedback. And I appreciate when people can, you know, there's some that will angrily, you know, tell their opinion about things, and we can't stop anybody from doing that. But I always appreciate people who can provide feedback in a positive way. And it's good to learn. That's a good skill to learn. And as I, you know, I've trained employees and things like that, it's something I have to practice in a way that's like, okay, how do we kind of critique and help, you know, offer some critique in a way that helps them feel safe and secure and loved and appreciated. And I think it is kind of an art that we have to practice to be able to learn those skills. So that's interesting. But yeah, that's that mentality, you know, keeping with our theme here of changing and adapting. If we are rigid in our mental of just like, no, I'm right, and anybody who kind of tests that or opposes me on that, they're going to get it. You know, in my words or in my actions, I'm going to show them. But being able to realize, hey, I don't have it all figured out, and you know, I'm open to suggestions and feedback and insight as to how I can grow and improve. It shows that we're open to change. You know, we're open to that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ariana's agreeing here. I can't hear you, but you got the body language going. I love it. I wish I could hear you. Oh, good. Interesting. Yeah, our relationships, our work, you know, all our just spirituality, like everything. There's so much growth and learning that's happening every single day if we let it, you know, if we let it happen.
Yeah.
So
no,
good.
It's not simple, and it's not easy. If you have a habit of doing something, you know, changing that is it's not easy. But if you put some consistent effort on it, you know, you will probably eventually get it there.
The one topic that they bring up in the book is about our fears and being afraid. What would you do if you weren't afraid? You know, what kinds of things would you do if you weren't afraid? And it's interesting because the commentary at the end mentions, okay, how many of you, it's in a group discussion, a bunch of friends that are talking about this story. And one group member asks the group, well, how many of you feel afraid of change? And like, no, and nobody raised their hands, and they're like, oh, you're all in denial, you know? And then he says, how many of you think that everybody else is afraid? And all of their hands went up. And so, you know, the idea was that we can see fear in other people, but we have a hard time seeing it in ourselves. And I thought that was an interesting concept, because then it kind of caused me to kind of look internally and say, what fears are there that I don't even realize are there and are keeping me from change because I don't even realize they're there. I'm protecting myself so much from those fears that I don't even consciously know that they're there.
Yeah, not only that, I think it's just maybe a part of keeping yourself, or maybe shielding yourself from your weakness. You are whatever they have, whatever the fear or whatever the weaknesses someone has, the kind of suppressing them in such a way no one else will realize it.
Yes.
But the matter of fact is someone is not accepting the facts.
Right.
He's living, or he or she is living a life of dream. And the one day when you realize, someone realizes, that are the things I need to overcome. You have more than what you think to overcome.
Yes. Yep. There's more there than we even realize. Yeah. So yeah, the concept in the book is just talking about the more that we can be looking for those fears or those weaknesses or those, and actively kind of searching them out, the better off we'll be, because we'll see them coming, and we'll see that coming. We'll see, instead of looking back on it and saying, I wish I would have known, I wish I would have seen that coming, or I wish I would have not been so, in denial about that, so that I could see it coming and prepare for it. Being able to look ahead and saying it's never too late, it's never too late to start looking ahead and to look for those ways to change, and we can start now.
Exactly.
That's interesting. Yeah, let's see some of these, some of the key ideas here. So along the way, as this Ha is the main character, is searching for cheese. At first, he says, when they have the cheese, it says having cheese makes you happy. So it's having this result is what makes me happy. But what happens when that cheese is gone? Your happiness, then his happiness was gone. Another thing that he came to is the more important your cheese is to you, the more you want to hold on to it. So they were protecting their cheese. They were wanting to kind of keep hold of it and not let go. And that's kind of our weaknesses, right? We want to hold on to that. Just like you were saying, we want to hold on to it. And it's important to us that this is my image. This is the way I view myself. And we kind of want to hold on to that at all costs. But then he comes to this understanding. He starts evolving and starts realizing, okay, if you don't change, you become extinct. Okay. If you're not going to adapt, and like you were talking about those people in your company, if they keep doing things the way they've done things, it might be that they eventually are at a job because they're not getting the results that they need,
Oh, yeah. At some point, yeah.
At some point, yeah. If we don't change, then that leads to some consequences, some problems ahead. And then he goes on, he says, what would you do if you weren't afraid? So we talked about that a little bit. And because he talks a lot about the fear that we have of the unknown, and realizing that the fear of the unknown was a lot scarier than the actual unknown, like going into the unknown. And so facing that was a lot less scary than the fear of facing it. Okay, we've talked about this. Smell the cheese often so you know when it's getting old. So when we're aware of, because one thing that he came to was realizing that the cheese was getting old, and I could have seen that it was getting old if I was looking for it. But I was kind of in denial with realizing that, in acknowledging that the cheese probably wasn't as good as I thought it was. Let's see. Moving in a new direction helps you find new cheese. Okay. So if we keep just staying in the same spot and staying stagnant, there isn't that opportunity to find new cheese. We think what we have is the best that we're ever going to get. And I think that's a really powerful concept to be able to visualize and anticipate that as good as we thought things were before, this change can bring about even better things in the future, and having that optimism and that hope of better things to come. Because when you're kind of stuck in that situation where you're mourning the loss of the cheese or the loss of what you had, it can be really hard to find that hope that something better is in the future. We think, well, that was the best I was going to have, and now what is there? But as we move in the direction to find that new cheese, we'll realize that what's coming in the future can be just as good, if not better, than what we've had before. And feel free to jump in here, Nawa, if you have any thoughts on any of these.
I think we already talked about.
Yeah, we talked about some of those things. When you stop being afraid, you feel good. That's one thing he realizes, like, hey, when I start moving and I start facing these fears, these feel really good. And I think that comes with that confidence, that confidence in when we face our fears and we have that courage and we realize we're stronger than we actually thought we were, because we faced those fears and we stood up and we've done things that are challenging or things that we were afraid of. It feels really good, and it almost spurs more of that. You want to keep going, keep facing those fears and keep doing those things that build that confidence. Imagining yourself enjoying your new cheese leads you to it. Like that one?
Yep.
And I think that's the power. They have kind of this difference between, in the story, they talk about the mice and the little people, and how the mice are just going instinctively. They just kind of move. They're simple-minded. They just kind of do it. And something that's powerful about the human mind is that we can imagine. We have this ability to imagine and to create in our minds before we actually do it. And I think that is underestimated. That power to imagine is underestimated, because as we imagine what could be, and we start moving in that direction, it leads us to create what can be and create what we really want. The quicker you let go of the old cheese, the sooner you find new cheese. So we've talked about that a little bit, of just like, let it go, let it go. We don't have any control over that. Let's just let it go and not let it affect us so much. And kind of keep control over what we do have control over, and let go what we don't. Let's see. It is safer to search in the maze than remain in a cheeseless situation. So one of the characters just wanted to sit there and just wait for the cheese to come back. And, but he was never really going to get anywhere because he was just waiting. But the more we kind of go in search of that, it's actually, at first it might seem like there's some fear, that there's fear and there's things to those fears to face. But really, it is safer to start moving and to start searching than to stay in that state of cheeselessness, if that's a word. Old beliefs do not lead to new cheese. Yeah, like you were talking about now, you have to keep changing those systems and changing and adapting to new things that are coming our way. When you see that you can find and enjoy new cheese, you change course. Noticing small changes early helps you, what does that say?
Adapt to the bigger changes.
Adapt to the bigger changes that are to come. Okay, noticing small changes early helps you adapt to bigger changes that are to come. So like we were talking about, as you notice the small changes early on in the road, you can change and adapt your path to adjust, instead of getting further down the path and realizing, oh shoot, that wasn't what I wanted. But if we kind of notice those small changes early on, then we can move beyond that. I was just when I was reading this part of it, it made me think actually about Pronunciation Pro. And Pronunciation Pro actually originated because earlier on in my marriage, and I had two little kids. I have four kids now, but I had two little kids at the time, and my husband was having health problems, and I could see that it was chronic. And so Pronunciation Pro started because I realized kind of early on that I might need to provide for my family. I might need to have this as my primary income, because I didn't know what was going to happen with my husband's health. And so I started down this path and saying, okay, well, this is what I need to do. This is how, this is, if I'm going to be the provider, if I'm going to need to do this, then I want to do something that I really enjoy. And I want to do something that I really can get passionate about. And I had kind of already started, the imagining had already happened for Pronunciation Pro. It was already in my head of what I wanted to do. And as this change happened in my life, I was able to see, okay, well, this could be a good thing. This could be then that spark that I need and that drive that I need to start this thing that I want to do. And that could be good for my family and things like that. And so it's just interesting because it did end up, further down the road, those health problems have gotten worse and things like that. And so earlier on, I was able to see kind of those small changes and adapt and change at that point, so that now further down the road, it has turned out in the best way I feel like it could possibly have gone. Thanks, Ariana. High five right there. But I think that's just the power of kind of taking control, is when you see changes that are happening and you take control of that situation and say, okay, I might not have control of these external things that are happening in my life, but I do have control of me and what I can do. Then it does then lead you in a direction that can be ultimately a lot better for you. And of course, there's many, 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 many changes and small little things all along the road, and things that I look back and realize, oh, dang, I missed those signs early on. I wish I would have, seen those signs and adapted, but I didn't. But it's never too late. I'll adapt now and change from here on out. But it's all that learning process. And I think the more we're open to seeing the small changes, the better off we'll be in the long run.
That's an amazing story by itself.
Mm-hmm.
And the inspirational one. Absolutely. It's just, and I kind of think most of the time you need to hit rock bottom to bounce it back. That's whenever you are running somewhere in the middle, you are not probably thinking your best potential or the best for yourself, your family, and all that. Okay, things are running well. This is good. Okay, I have a job. Okay, have no problem paying my bills and all that. As soon as you realize, oh, okay, that's not going to happen tomorrow, then you start thinking that, and finding that at that point, absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the hope is that we don't have to hit rock bottom to change. That we can be open to change earlier on, so it doesn't require that. So that's kind of the idea, is to help us have the mentality and the kind of the mental space to say, what do I need to change, and where do I need to change, and what needs to happen, and being open to that, and being willing to do the work. I think that's a big part of it, is that sometimes we know the change that needs to be made, but it's hard and it takes a lot of work. And, that was 10 years ago that happened. Well, I guess 8 years ago that kind of initially happened. And if it's interesting because I look back at all the hard work that had to, that's taken place and continues to take place. And I'm like, I don't know, that would be a hard one to go back and redo because it was a lot harder than I anticipated. And, I'm sure you all have experiences the same where it's like, okay, that was much, much harder than I thought it was going to be. It's probably good that we don't know it's as hard as as it is, some of these changes that we have to make. But as we just keep one day at a time, just saying, okay, what do I need to do today that's going to get me to where I want to be? And just kind of keeping that mentality of one day at a time, I think it helps us get through, those harder changes that need to happen. So at the end, he kind of summarizes and he says, this is the kind of the handwriting on the wall. Change happens, anticipate change, monitor change, adapt to change quickly, and then change, enjoy change, and be ready to change quickly and enjoy change. Let's see, I can't see that. And basically enjoy it.
Enjoy it again.
Enjoy it again. Yeah, that it's just going to be on this cycle over and over again. So anyway, that was our book. We were able to actually have a really great discussion, regardless. And Ariana, I'm amazed at how much you're able to participate without even being able to hear you. I love it. I feel like you were just as part of things, even though we couldn't see your voice. That says a lot to your personality and just the energy that you transmit there. So I love it. You stayed engaged even without being able to see to hear your voice. So that, good on you. That was awesome. And Nava, thank you so much for your comments and your insight and your experiences.
Yeah. No, it is absolutely. Before we leave, I think, you can turn the recording off. We don't need to record it.
There. Okay. I need some honest feedback here. Let me.
It's not a